today we are looking at weather versus climate. And where do we get it wrong most of the time? So every time there is a flood in Kenya, for instance, someone might say this is climate change. And every time there is a cold morning, someone else might say, so where is the global warming that we've been told about? But both sides are arguing. There's a bit of confusion here because they are mixing up the weather and the climate. But today, I'm going to explain the difference in very simple terms. No science class here, just simple terms, no big words, no technical words, just the real life that we usually experience. My name is Dr. Jeidi and you are welcome. So today, we start with the weather first. So weather is what happens outside your window. So today, right now, if you are to look out your window, what is happening outside? Is it raining? Is it hot? Is the wind strong? Or that's what we call the weather. The changes we are seeing right now outside your window, that's what we call the weather. Could be raining, could be hot, could be blowing, the wind could be blowing strongly, could be a storm, depending on where you are. Weather changes fast. And we can be having, the same day you can be having a morning sun, then in the afternoon you have a storm, or you can even at night you have sometimes a cold night, depending, or even a hot afternoon and all that. So weather is short term, it's not long term. It can last for minutes, hours, and days. Like you said, one morning can be warm, evening could be even showers, is raining and all that, and the night could also be different, could be a cold night. So that's why we are saying it could be minutes, could be hours, it could be days. It's a short term. You also feel the weather on your skin. For instance, if it is raining, you'll feel it in your skin. If it's very, very hot, you'll feel it on your skin. If it's very cold, you feel it in your skin. If the wind is blowing very hard, you'll also feel it on your skin. Let's look at now the climate. Climate is the long story about vis-a-vis the weather. Climate is not today, like we've seen in the weather. Climate is what usually happens over very many years, sometimes decades. Actually, it's decades. Climate, what does it tell you? Tell you things like, does this place usually flood over many years? Does it normally dry out in January? So those are the questions that if they are answered, for instance, yes, then you can say that's the climate of that place. Is this area getting hotter over time? Because you are analyzing patterns. The climate change is about patterns, about trends. So it's not moments like we've seen in the weather. So you look at the trends of a place, you look at the patterns, then you can conclude the weather, the climate of that place. Think of climate as the personality of a place. Weather is just today's mood. Today you can be a happy mood, but what is your general personality? What is generally your personality? Today you can be happy, tomorrow you are sad, and something like that. So we are looking at long term. It's a long story vis-a-vis weather. So let's look at an analogy here. If you, for instance, you met me or met someone else who is maybe shouting at you, does that mean they are angry all the time? That's an angry person. At times no, because maybe those circumstances of that day that you met made him angry, made him or her angry. That's one moment only. But if they shout every day, for instance, for 10 years, if it is possible, then you can say that's their personality. They are angry people. That's their personality. So that is the climate. We're shouting one day, that could be weather. But if he or she is shouting maybe for 10 years and more, then that is their personality. So we can call that climate. Let's give another example of maybe in the sports, those of us who loves football. So when there's a weather is one football match. For instance, a football club, they go to the field, they play one match, either they win or they lose. That the climate is the whole season. That one match is with the weather. Whether they win or lose is the weather. You can't judge them with one match. But if the whole season they've failed the whole season, or they are winning the whole season, then that is the climate. So you can't judge on a team by one bad game or one good game, but you judge them by years of results. For instance, a whole season, how was the performance for the whole season? So there's the same as climate. So, but why do we have this confusion which causes these arguments? People feel the weather. As we said, you feel the weather on your skin, whether it's heat, it's hot, it's cold, it's rainy, it's windy, you feel it on your skin. But we don't feel the climate. So when it rains heavily, we say, or people say, that's climate change. When it is cold one morning, people say global warming is fake. But climate change doesn't mean every day is hot. It measures averages over a long time. And we see when there's climate change, you can say averages are rising. We can also look at the heat waves. They have become stronger. Rainfall is also shifting, and also it has changed. And then we look at the floods. The floods and droughts are also becoming more common. So those are the things we look at. So let's give an example of Kenya, an example. If Nairobi floods once, that's weather. If today is flooding, that's weather. If Nairobi floods more often over decades, then we say that's climate. So if droughts keep returning every year, every few years, that's climate. So you say the climate of Nairobi is this because maybe the droughts have been coming every few years. So our climate is about frequency. As we said, you look at the trends and also the patterns. Then you also look at the frequency. If it is the heat, the temperature, how hot has it been? Or if it is the floods, how often do they usually come? Not single events. So that has been cleared, that you look at the patterns, you also look at the trends, and then the frequency over many years, normally 30 years. So how do scientists actually measure climate? They don't look at one storm, for instance. They don't look at one storm. They look at 30 years and above of data. They can maybe data of rainfall, maybe temperature, heat waves, cold nights, extremes. The extremes that we usually experience could be floods, could be droughts, could be those extremes. That's what they look at over many years, normally above 30. So they compare the decades. That's how climate trends are found, not from yesterday. So they compare decades. For instance, they can say from 2000 to 2010, 2010 to 2020, this is how it was, and things like that. And also you look at another simple way to think about it. Weather is your daily bank spending. How much are you spending per day? That's the weather. So climate is your annual budget. So if you are expensive every day for a whole year, then that is your climate. One expensive day doesn't make you poor, but many expensive years do. So that's another analogy that you can compare. So where climate change fits in, where does climate change fit in? Climate change means the long-term averages, like we have said, they are shifting. So for instance, oceans are warming, air holds more moisture, that's humidity. There's extreme events becoming stronger. These extreme events can be floods, could be droughts, could be even forest fires and all that. That doesn't cancel cold days. It changes the baseline. As you've said, their averages over many years, could be 30 years, could be 40 years, but many years. So why does this matter? If we confuse weather with climate, so in that case, we'll be misunderstanding the floods. We'll also be misunderstanding the droughts, and also we argue past each other because of those analogies, those weather versus climate, and then we usually ignore the long-term risks. Because of the climate, sometimes you need to plan for it because of the damage with these extreme events and all that. So understanding this difference helps us prepare better. For instance, if it floods, we said the other time they can affect that, they can destroy infrastructure, they can even cause deaths, losing lives and all that. So it is very important that you realize the difference so that you can see whether, for instance, if it's temperature, is it rising over those many decades? What if it's drought? How frequent are they? Something like that. So remember this, weather is what happens today. Like we said, you look out of your window, you see whether it is raining, whether it's hot, whether it's stormy, whether it's windy. That is what is happening today. But climate is what happens over many years. We said 30 years and above. So weather is a moment when the weather is shining outside, but climate is the story. is the long story. All those combined over many decades. So once you understand that, then everything else makes sense. Things like El Nino, you'll understand better, floods, droughts, and also climate change. And it all starts here when you know the difference between weather and climate. Just a recap, we said weather is a moment, that time. Like today morning, it's raining in Nairobi, so that is the weather today. But climate of Nairobi is different. You look at the averages or those parameters, wind, temperature, rainfall, and all that. Then you get the averages. Are the averages shifting? For instance, in the year 2000 or 1990, how was the weather that time? How was the climate, at that time? Was it, what was the temperature, average temperature? Was it 24? Is it now 25? Now you can see that the climate change is going up. The temperatures are rising, so you can see there's climate change. So it is something that you have to analyze. You look at the patterns, you look at the trends over many years. So that's the short and the long form of the difference between weather and climate. I hope that now that has been made very, very clear. Until next time, bye.